Oh my god, my mic was off. My mic was... This is a disaster, folks. My mic was off. I can't believe this. We're good? Stream health is good. I can't... Wow, I'm at a loss for words. I figured out how to pop out the chat, so... There we go. Live stream. Can you hear me now? Yeah, I was muted. Yeah, I know. I'm good, right? Like, you can hear me? Let's see. There we go. There's the chat window. Their old piece is no representation of, what did you say, Philip? What did you say, boy? My current style. Yeah, but I like your old style. It's good. I like it. I see, Philip, you have to get into more of the ambient Arvo Part type of stuff. Yeah, I hate composing for piano. Well, yeah, piano does present its own challenges, but I can't believe I screwed up this badly. Anyways, we have some very interesting art threads this week, and I may get to this crazy unhinged article that I found from the CBC. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, as some Finnish autist called me, the most unaesthetic man ever. That I am like Nurgle. I am like a Slanesh. Anyways, you know when someone hates you so obsessively and they preen over every little aspect of your aesthetic that it almost comes off as a compliment. But apparently, you know, I'm a fake cell in terms of right-wing politics if I don't praise the Austrian painter and violence. So anyways, enough about people that don't matter. Yeah, well, he's gonna get banned soon. Well, you see these people, they're always going to get banned soon. Like, just give it time till they, like, Fed post enough. And, yeah, anyways. Well, so, apparently, see, I wanted to talk a little bit before I go into these art threads. I have 3 of them. Now, is there a relationship between physiognomy and beauty? There is to an extent. But when it comes to a deeper level of aesthetic appreciation, throughout history it just doesn't pan out. Because some of the most ugliest people have been some of the best artists in human history, or the best philosophers. It's not just Socrates, but Rembrandt wasn't exactly good looking. Gustav Klimt was kind of not good looking. Who else am I thinking of? Well, Toulouse-Lautrec made some of the most romanticist paintings in human history, and look, he was a little gremlin-looking dude. So, I think, like, the problem with a lot of... I find it very interesting how you have these new group of people, how they sort of are going... Or rather, they're sort of going after BAP a little bit. You know, they're given license to. I find it ironic how... It's like... They sort of have a very reified view of it. Because, like, let's face it, a lot of these guys... Like, I had my video, right? My controversial aesthetic poster video. A lot of these dudes, they don't necessarily go out and create works of art or architecture. I mean, they aesthetic post. I mean, and I'm friends with a lot of them, and a lot of them do quite well. But it's just, I don't know, something about it just seems... Anyways, let's not concern ourselves too much with people who don't matter. But, no, BAP actually matters. That's the difference. Like, that, like, a lot of the BAPists, I understand, their appreciation of beauty and aesthetics, but it's rather the overcoming of ugliness, I think, is important, and something that gets lost in their sort of very, like, their appropriations of Nietzsche. I think it gets lost, because, for example, like, one of the great heroes of the dissident right online is Yukio Mishima, and Mishima really overcame his physical limitations and what he saw as his own form of aesthetic ugliness to achieve perfection. So I think that's probably, like, in some sense, I think it's very rare because it is true that people who just have, general ugly appearances sometimes have ugly souls. But I think that it almost is like, because you have that lack of an aesthetic sense, or not an aesthetic sense, but if you have that lack of an aesthetic that comes natural to your own person, your own visage, I think that you can appreciate beauty on a deeper level, but only very rare, but rarely, of course, because a lot of, like I said, great artists were not exactly the most aesthetic people. But, so, yeah, I know, it's kind of like, let me just check the chat really quickly. But only very rare, but rarely. Oh, feedback. No, but yeah, so I think that their equation, I mean, of course it's just cope on my part, but, what am I gonna do? Oh my god! I'm not a 10 out of 10 Giga Chad, so I should just give up doing it. I should just give up. By the way, I have to just refine some of the trees on my convoy print. I hope you could see that. Oh my god, some fucking Anon from Finland where they all look like fucking half mongrel Asians. I have to give up my work of art. Oh god. But anyways, I wouldn't be talking about this, but I do find it pertinent for what we're going to talk about in terms of, let me upgrade that fez of yours. I like this fez. I would like a red one, but this actually did come from Turkey. So yeah, it's like, I have to quit. All the years of cultivating, painting, and printmaking, I gotta give up. Cause I'm ugly. I love it when people that make nothing of themselves, that just post on Twitter. Anyways, I have people here I'm talking about on these Twitter threads. My good friend is in the chat, Fen, who actually do go out of their way to make something. Or actually take posting. I shouldn't denigrate Twitter posting. They take posting to a higher level by having takes that are beyond looking at history like some MapQuest game. So I have 3 people. One of them is a great writer, Apex, everyone knows. Another one is Fen, who is one of the best modern, or I should say contemporary, sculptors in the world, in my opinion. Fen, I hope you're still with me, my brother. And another one is Jet, who is an Anon, but has really quality threads. And had a thread that blew up when people were obsessing over the terrible, disgusting remake of the Matrix, or whatever it was, by the Wachowski sisters. Oh no, it's only the one sister. But we're going to get into that, and I might get into some news, but let me just click off right here. So the first thread, it's the longest one, but I promised myself I wasn't going to read them beforehand. I was only going to focus on actually like looking at actually like live reacting to them, because my friend Apex wanted me to read, because what he did recently was he had this thread that blew up. Or rather, he had this article about Thomas Cole's The Course of Empires paintings, the 5 suite, and he did this other thread on Peter the Elder, Bruegel. So he is looking into Bruegel's work, episode 2 of Apex's art analysis. Let me see if I get the chat box over here. Rachel Whitwire thinks they become millennial Richard Wagner. Well, Philip, you are the millennial Richard Wagner. No, I shouldn't say that. That's probably... But if one day we can all hope, one day... Let me fix this chat window. What am I doing here? Let me just fix this sucker. There we go. Speaking of aesthetics, let me upgrade the... yeah, I'm sad that Rachel left Twitter. Anyways, this is Apex's thread on Peter Bruegel. Is it Peter Bruegel? I forget. I Bruegel the Elder, I think, the famous one. Bruegel and the Wonders of Northern Renaissance. Now, I'm not exactly, as a Mediterranean, I'm not the biggest fan of the Flemish besides Rembrandt. It's sort of like a lot of art that came after the Northern Renaissance. It's kind of very alienating to my Mediterranean, gaudy Catholic aesthetic, but we're going to get through this. And it's the longest one, so let me see how long, but we're going to... I love this meme, by the way. Source, I made it up. Dr. Manhattan. I like the Dr. Manhattan one where it's Tony Soprano. So let's see. And then later I'm going to find Fenn's thread and the one I was telling you about. So let's see. All right. Episode 2, Bruegel and the Wonders of the Northern Renaissance. We shall discuss Bruegel's sociological background and viewpoints, looking at many of his paintings and concluding with a formal analysis of one of his masterpieces, The Harvest. So this is The Harvest. Everyone has seen this painting. I love how fascism is trending because of that one insane cat lady journalist. It's really quite astounding. Toronto. Oh, they're invading Toronto now. That's amazing. Thank you. Mwah. God bless you, truckers and Chad tractor drivers. Those people in Toronto really deserve it. I hate Toronto with a passion. Or rather, I should say I hate the people there with a passion. And they deserve it. As the wrestling chant goes. Let's look at the comments. Flems were more Catholic than you meds. Oh, come on. Come on. That's a cope. And maybe, but aesthetically not so much. Bruegel was perhaps the most significant painter of the Northern Renaissance. The early Renaissance, of course, yes. Because it was the Flems, I believe Van Eyck was Flemish, that invented the Miche technique, which was the way in which most of the Renaissance painters approach the work of art. I know Robert Venosa goes into it quite a bit before he died, because his mentor, Ernst Fuchs, rediscovered the Miche technique, and that has been the basis for most of the quote-unquote visionary art, psychedelic art, blah, blah, blah. I appreciate Venosa more than Alex Gray, but, c'est la vie. Bruegel was perhaps the most significant painter of the Northern Renaissance. His mastery of the landscapes and his focus on peasant scenes, also known as genre paintings, distinguished him from the masters of the Southern Renaissance, primarily in Italy. Yeah, so you can automatically see that it was more proletarian in a sense, that the sort of social realism that came about in the 19th century, that was sort of old hat. But you have to realize that huge bodies of knowledge were sort of lost. But then they come back again. They weren't totally lost. This whole nonsense about, knowledge being lost or whatever, the dark ages, the Renaissance. It's sort of the narrative that, the Renaissance and they rediscovered Hellenism, and they were still committed deeply to the Catholic ethos or the Catholic heliocentric view of the world, as Sloterdijk would say. But yet even though there was explorations into Hellenism, a lot of Renaissance, a lot of Enlightenment quote unquote humanists make way too much of it. You may be familiar with one of the most famed works, his depictions of the Tower of Babel. Perhaps what is most interesting is the distance Bruegel generates between peasants he depicts in his own perspective, the quiet observer waiting from afar. I remember, I believe it was Life of the Mind, where Hannah Arendt talks about the observer being an integral part of the political process, and how when you relate it to any art genre of social realism, that distance is always kind of, in a weird way, it's an aesthetic equivalent of a sociological observation. So I think that's where Apex is going here. What is the nature of the quiet observer, an unbiased ethnographer, or perhaps something else? Oh man, I forgot to promo the stream on Twitter, So let me just really quickly. Live now, get in here. The reason I do that live now, get in here, is because Sam Hyde had that one stream he did a long time ago. I think it was Jahu's Trip to the Future, where he's like, it's live now, get in here. So, I got my criticisms of Sammy, but I think that, for some reason, those little things just stick to you, Biographers of Bruegel have quarreled over the age about how to understand the painter's perspective. If we are to understand Bruegel's paintings more fully, we must locate the artist's personality and development in the broader context of the class he truly belonged to. And so the peasantry, the knights, so again, very similar, I guess, to the East, the Kshatriyas, the Untouchables, Bruegel's first biographer, Karl von Mander, first characterized Bruegel as a peasant and then as an aristocratic man. These contradictory terms do not help an understanding of Bruegel, especially since Mander's description of Bruegel qua peasant seems entirely made up. Source, I made it up. It's fiction. It's fiction. We made it up. Grossman suggests that Vasari's description... So Vasari, for people who don't know, a lot of, especially Nordic supremacists, they get all bent out of shape because Vasari tended to, psyop people into thinking that only the Italian Renaissance mattered, and that, the Northern Renaissance, the Flemish Renaissance was, not a thing, or didn't have the equivalent value, and they're really just a bunch of, landscape painters, because you have to realize that being a landscape painter myself, I don't know if Apex knows about this, but landscape as an art form was denigrated for many years, for many centuries actually. Landscape was just something that got you to the genre painting, got you to the portrait, its background. It really didn't take on a life of its own. Of course, you had to know how to render the landscape realistically, especially even harder still if you were a printmaker back then, doing either engraving, then later with Dutch Mordant doing actual etching. But the landscape wasn't the focus. It was gravy. It's that's one thing Bubba Ray Dudley said about Vince McMahon. He's like, tag team wrestling is gravy for him. It's not the main thing. Whereas tag team wrestling is more of a thing in Japan as more, important. So the landscape is gravy up until very, I would say, the 19th century, so forth. So the landscape was only just in a way of practicing. It was the background. It wasn't the main event. It wasn't the top card, if you will. Only till later. But if you actually look at Titian, if you look at especially the Flemish Renaissance, the landscape was given more weight, even though it was the backdrop for the subject. But it was still the landscape techniques that the Dutch, the Flemish created was truly revolutionary in a lot of ways. But I would say that the Italian Renaissance, they have in the background, especially with Titian, the landscapes that they have are quite interesting and important. And just with a few strokes, they were able to capture a tree, for instance, or a vast swath of the land in the background. Our most valuable clue regarding Bruegel's class/location is the social hierarchy comes from Abraham Ortelius. Those are various signs of a close friendship between Bruegel and Ortelius. Bruegel engraved a painting he gave to Ortelius. Ortelius wrote an epitaph for Bruegel. So, if you had a pretty prominent painting, what happened was you would give it off to the engravers. For example, Turner he would give George Cook his paintings. He would do an engraving that would come pretty similar or close to the outline of the painting, and they would go from there. Ortelius was a scholar who was also an outwardly Orthodox Catholic, who still questioned some of the teachings, although he did not go as far as becoming a Protestant. This and Bruegel's inclusion in the circle of acquaintance of a prominent humanist scholar gives further hints. Wait 1 second. Oh boy. Bruegel also collaborated with Giulio Calivio, renowned miniaturist in Rome who admired Michelangelo and Raphael, and counted Nicholas Jonclink, I can't pronounce that, and Cardinal Gravella as two of his most prominent and important. The man was embedded in high society. One of the painters traditionally singled out as a manifestation of Bruegel's attitude to popular culture is the painting Netherlandish Proverbs. Scholars have argued that the works illustrated human folly and exemplified Bruegel's philosophic detachment from the world around him. So, it's funny because Goya, many years later, actually had a similar painting with the dancers. So here's all like the peasantry oafs getting drunk. And what were those on top of? What is that on top of the house there? On top of the thatch? What are they, plates? Oh, wow. Like, look at all of them. They just, like, are, doing, like, menial stuff in between just making, complete oafs of themselves. I'm 37. I might be single forever. I'm happy with that. Oh! Oh, wait. Maybe we have to read that one, fellas. Maybe we might have to read that one. Oh, the proverbs are intended to illustrate behavior that should be avoided. These are minus 118 identifiable proverbs in the scene. Proverb collecting was a passion among Renaissance humanists per Moxie, but Bruegel was also categorizing human folly and absurdity broadly. So, wow, look at that. The man with the ass. The cloak, let's see here. Oh my god. Like, look at the exquisite detail he put into everything. Let me just go to here for future reference sake. Oh, is this the one that people were memeing on? Oh my god. Good luck. That is a wizard. That's a woman's equivalent of being a wizard. David Kunzel argued that Bruegel was making a moral statement as well. Bruegel was not denying that the upper classes were immune from such follies, but he was reinforcing the idea of the lower class as, in some sense, the true source of irrational and foolish behavior. Well, that is true. Kunzel's interpretation takes into account Bruegel's probable audience, class of wealthy, educated humanists, and would have stressed the superiority of enlightened urban life versus the foolish rural peasantry. This urban-rural tension was significant in the 16th century. So, wow, look at that. So, let me just see the, okay. We Bruegeling bros. On the other hand, the distance that Bruegel appears to generate between peasants and his perspective may be due to philosophy, not social class. Corner identifies Bruegel in the school of Christian scholasticism. Interesting. The ethics of this, quote, the ethics of this neo-stoicism urge pleasure in the experience of distance from curiosity above the life world of one's time and place. The neo-stoic and the ethnographer at home, observing his culture, invert its life world and then behave as if it were nature's own. So from the distance, you can observe social life. Another piece of prime importance to the understanding of Bruegel's relationship to popular culture is his painting The Battle Between Carnival and Lent. The piece contrasts two sides of contemporary life, represented by enjoyment and religious observance. This piece is rather fascinating. Whoa. Look at the fat dude over there. That's amazing. He's eating the Cornish hens. Of course, you have the church and the darkened hallways. But look at the exquisite detail he managed to cram into everything. And this isn't like a very large painting either. That's, fascinating. But of course, they say that in the Renaissance they had the sort of type of boiled linseed they were using allowed the paint, the actual pigment to flow downwards, and it just produced more vibrant color. The inn on the left side of the painting represents merriment. The church on the right side of the painting represents religious observance and spirituality. Well-behaved children near the church stand in contrast to a beer-drinking scene near the inn. Whoa. Look, I guess that guy has lame legs. Then you have like a shanty tent. Then you have, oh, look at that poor drunk in the middle. My God. look at them. They have that sort of drunken happiness, that glow. Then you have the church. You have the clergy, the nuns, people in shawls, children playing that the ball game. Wow, fascinating. The figures of Carnival personified by a rather rotund man. I have to retweet that. Leads a procession through the town and presides over a large feast. So, yes, the fat man was an oh, he has a pig, not a hen. Oh, yeah, that is a hen there. So he's got a pig, or is that a dog? And, oh, look at that, the huge ham hock. So, yes, the fat man is leading the procession. He is the true Dionysian figure. So, there you go, with his rosy cheeks. His gin rosy cheeks, as they would say. The half of the... they trying to psyop people? I'm getting distracted by Twitter by claiming that the Proud Boys are, in the protest. The half of the picture associated with Lent, figure in black circle, is dominated by abstinence and plenty. People drain water from the well, give alms to the poor and sick, and go to church. Cues of black figures emerge from the prayers in church. Look at that. Some have argued that Bruegel shows the triumph of Lent, and the figure of Carnival seems to bid farewell with his left hand as his eyes are raised to the sky. This analysis is speculative and certainly not upheld by everyone. Most likely, Bruegel illustrated human folly in general. In the center, a married couple with their backs to the viewer are guided by a fool with a burning torch. Some critics have identified this couple as a symbol of the common masses, turning their backs on the nonsense that's happening, signaling the existence of a different path. Bruegel made extensive use of caricature to satirize both parties in the confrontation, appealing to the distance of his wealthy humanist patrons had from the peasantry class he depicted. Now that we better understand the tension inherent in Bruegel's work, his apparent distance from the peasants he depicts, we turn to, in my humble opinion, one of the finest works, The Harvest. What insight does this have? Yeah, MAGA. By the way, Trump shouted out the truckers, by the way, so that's pretty good. I love how, I think Apex is going to give you a close-up, but just notice how you have a solid color mass, and you have just little thickets of the wheat that he's placed there with just a tiny bit of umber. Like, that's fascinating. I think, like, the Impressionists would sort of rediscover that technique later, because it's very complicated to depict huge blades of grass or wheat in a field without, like, going into excessive detail with all of the strands. So, as we look upward upon the fields of wheat tended to by busy hands and a town of people at play, how are we supposed to feel? Are we supposed to both literally and figuratively look down on these common people, treating them as inferiors to ourselves? Okay, that feel when no field made in GF with that dummy thick pog, a bodice, if you will. Perhaps as we supposed to engage with them more sympathetically, taking a bird's eye view of their lives of the common people and doing our best to empathize with them. Oh my God, Bruegel did love the dummy thick pog GFs, the milk maidens. And of course, like, peasantry in the field, that becomes, a common symbol throughout all of art history, like even up to Van Gogh. When it comes to the harvest, so yeah, here's what I'm talking about. This is, look at the way he does it. Just a few flicks of his brush, just a few details in the beginning of the wheat field in order to denote, like, a huge swath of land. So I think that's fascinating. And you could almost see his just little pluck of the strokes underneath over here. What am I doing? I should just like, circle it. When it comes to the harvesters, laborers' faces are visible and we can discern emotion to some degree. But there are a few defining characteristics that would separate these people from other hypothetical laborers. These are depictions of the common folk. While depictions of certain workers seem somewhat unflattering, showing haggard faces, I don't believe Bruegel is intended to ridicule them. Rather, I believe Bruegel is acknowledging the physically demanding labor work in the fields. So, before I return to the point, I want to point out the last main point of this painting, which will frame the rest of the paper, the unity between landscape and labor. So the proletarian landscape and the workers in the field, you have the symbiosis between them. Bruegel privileged landscapes, but in this painting, the laborers and the landscape are inseparable. The wheat field, town, and church are totality of life for the peasantry. The foggy horizon marking the boundary of that world. So you have the landscape, the laborers, then you have, in the beyond, you have the little shire. You have like the little church in the background. And notice how the foliage doesn't have too much excessive detail, apart from a few dry brushing, and he's probably daubing it with a flat or... Well, they didn't have flat brushes that much back then, but he's probably daubing it with a round, and then putting like highlights in later. Bruegel's separation of the landscape through methods of like colors and paths, acting as dividers / markers, mirrors in the separation of spheres, fields, town, and church, within the lives of the common people. The most prominent aspect of the painting that divides the work into separate parts is the color palette. The color palette. The dominant color palette denotes difference between the different spheres of life. The path focusing on the labor dominated by the gold yellow of the wheat is the most prominent part of the work. Ignoring the foggy horizon, most of the work is devoted to the yellow field of wheat. In fact, the bottom half of the picture is dominated by the field. Now, I think like it is true, but maybe Apex is making a bit too much of it, because you have like the Flemish, they really did kind of discover aerial perspective in that sense, where you're trying to separate as things regress into the background. They become bluer, they become, their hue is much cooler in terms of the color temperature, and they just generally have less detail. Whereas the tapestry paintings of the medieval period, there is like almost no separation between the perspective of what is in the background and foreground. But the foreground has to have more detail, it has to have warmer hues, it has to be more vibrant, and so on and so forth. But of course, with Bruegel the Elder, this is a revolutionary technique. So, person of girth, person of girth, thought police. I love that, thought police. I love that name. In the foreground, the apparent focus of the work, that which catches our eyes, the laboring in the field, most prominently individuals acting, working in the group, taking a break under the tree, separating the sphere of labor into smaller spheres of work and rest. When looking at the laborers in the field, I think it's reasonable to assume Bruegel understood that the harvest was grueling work. First, the man carries what appears to be water or some other kind of refreshment in jugs towards the resting group. Has an almost pained facial expression like a grimace. Second, we can move to the man resting under the tree asleep. Many of his companions also look tired, with one of the resting individuals guzzling down a refreshment. If Bruegel is sympathetic onlooker, his depiction of the work seems to be that it's physically intensive, confirmed by the exhaustion and parched individuals resting. But if we take Bruegel to be condescending, the scene could be emblematic of the laziness and gluttony of the lower classes, allowing for upper-class observers to feel justified in their superiority. One point, perhaps tenuous, which when I'm first interested, is that Bruegel possibly points to an isolating effect of the work as opposed to rest. Many of the laborers appear to be working individually, gazes focusing on their work instead of other people, even in those close proximity. So it's funny because, again, many centuries later, you have the separation between workers and each other in paintings and in painters such as Edward Hopper is like the most prominent example. But now Edward Hopper is expressing the alienation of 20th century American post-industrial life or industrial life. And Bruegel is commenting on the alienation that the peasants experience in Renaissance life or post-medieval life. So when we look instead to the scene of people at rest, so again, it's almost like I'm looking at an early version of Hopper when he has people in the train cars, they're all looking away from each other, or people observing the sun in that hotel. They're looking away. They're looking away from each other. They're looking towards the sun. So I might do an art video on. I wanted to write a number of essays. I did write one essay way back in the day comparing the vision of America from Edward Hopper to Norman Rockwell, and it's in. If you look at my link tree, which is in the bio, go to my WordPress archive, and in major PDFs, you will find Content Minded Volume 1. It's in Content Minded Volume 1, or just Google Giant Gio Penichetti Content Minded Volume 1, and it will be in there. It was an original Thermidor Magazine article, so those are where all of my Thermidor Magazine articles are. But I do want to write more about, because I have neglected my Modern Art Madness series that I used to do on WordPress. I have to bring that back. Maybe next month I'm going to bring it back, Modern Art Madness. So we'll see what happens. We look at the scene of the people at rest under the tree. We see a group of conversing. It is unclear if it was intentionally meaningful or simply a representation of how labor in the fields worked or simply my own active imagination. Focusing now on the group at rest, we see further examples of unity and community. There appears to be a mingling of the genders and generations with all different members of the family being involved. So I guess, the commies would say that this is primitive communism. In the labor process, the food may be plain, but the spirits seem high. There is a dignity in one of the figures as well, the woman. Oh my God. Hubba, hubba, hubba. Johnny Bravo jaw drop right now. The woman sitting upright with her back towards the viewer. Her back towards the viewer claims a kind of autonomy, emphasizing that the laborers have their own lives and don't need acknowledgement from nobles to live well. I guess it's true because this is, of course, a lot more intentional because the plein air painting was not invented yet, or rather, they were doing plein air sketches, which means on location, or they were doing alla prima studies, meaning all at once, so you complete a work of art all at once in the same sitting. They were doing these studies, but Bruegel would probably go out to the fields, do a few quick sketches, and would observe the clothing of the peasantry. But a lot of this was probably invented too, from his own imagination or from various compilations of various sketches. Of course, they didn't have photography, so they had to invent a lot of things. So with Bruegel, there's a lot of intention paid to the arrangement of the figures. Not just Bruegel, but I mean like any artist before, I would say, the 19th century. I'm trying to do a little bit of that. I'm trying to, as time goes on, I'm trying to, train myself to be less accustomed to photography, but, And of course, you just naturally have to edit what you see in photos anyways in terms of the color, the hue in general. One final point in the sphere of labor, color. Apart from a few of the laborers, most of the workers have on plain white shirts. Most of the color appears to be associated with those at rest. Perhaps Bruegel distinguished plainer worker versus color. Yes, that's very true. And again, Van Gogh, his famous painting of the potato farm workers having dinner with, potatoes and coffee. They look like the land and the potatoes that they're harvesting. That was an intention that Van Gogh had. So, one final point of the sphere of labor, color, blah, blah, blah. Next sphere of life, the town. The town in the center of the painting is framed on both sides by wheat fields, but is denoted by a shift in the color palette from gold yellow of the wheat to primary green, and depictions of trees and grass area. Leisures abound. Yes, but again, apex, it's arrow perspective. So you could see that, what am I doing pointing to it? My God. You can see over here, you have, he probably used I want to say probably a wash of white with a little bit of ultramarine. He's doing color glazes to sort of de-emphasize the background, to sort of create that foggy hue, but also to make that aerial perspective work by phasing out a lot of the details. Because you can see he started off by plucking little details into the trees, but now he's sort of glazing over it to de-emphasize them. You do have bursts of yellow, but of course this is very pale, almost sickly looking yellow in the background, because again, they're receding into the landscape. They're being taken up by the atmosphere. So that is, of course, the foundational rule of landscape painting is aerial perspective. The foreground of workers and middle ground people resting, engaging in play is reminiscent of the hunters in the shadow. Painting Bruegel also made at this time. The people skating on ice are replaced by children and adults in center field, seemingly engaged in game. I really like this painting. So you have the hunters, you have the children. Wow, like just incredible perspective that he's doing. But of course, it has like dark, foreboding, Scandinavian landscape. Of course, here you have in the springtime the fields. Oh yeah, he still has the same. I mean, of course they were recycling content all the time, right? Like that's just the nature of being an artist back in the day. Or even nowadays, you sort of recycle content, whether it consciously becomes a narrative or not is always up for debate, right? The narrative structure connecting the town and labor is interesting. Water/refreshment from the town to the laborers, and wheat from the labor to the town. Meaning of the paths of kind of center of point at the bridge may emphasize the town at the center of life above labor. So yeah, that's a good connection. Finally, the third sphere as we move away from the field, another plane, the church. So the church is receding with just a few kisses of cerulean to make up the lattices and the roof of the church. But of course, you have foliage. You only have a few areas of foliage that are in detail. Most of them are pretty much just dry brushstroke or pointillist sort of technique. Interestingly, though, perhaps less given the religious upheavals of the time, is how Bruegel de-emphasizes the church in comparison to the town and labor. The church is at the top right of the painting, semi-hidden behind trees overlooking spheres. It takes a back seat. Yeah, so nature, I guess like some kind of like, enlightenment, well, I don't want to use expletives, but Enlightenment, quote-unquote, humanists, they would say that Bruegel is showing how nature is taking over the role of the church, blah, 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 symbolically. But I can almost guarantee you, as a painter myself, he probably just thought that it was a good composition to hide the church behind the trees, because in that particular landscape, now granted, there's a lot of editing, of course, involved with the landscape. It's not like a one-to-one representation of the trees that he saw, but he's trying to pinhole it. He's trying to give. There's an exact word for it in art where you tunnel something into a vortex. So he's tunneling the church through the lens of nature, which could have some symbolic power. Not denying it, but I think again these Enlightenment writers, they probably made too much of it. This may yet be another example of Bruegel's humanism. So there again, Apex is pretty clever. He isn't disrespecting the church or forgetting it. Instead, he's simply pushing it back to focus on more mundane aspects of human life. So by the time you have social realism in the 19th century, the church is gone. The aristocracy is gone. There are no cathedrals. There's just the peasant labor or the industrial labor later on. He simply pushes it back to focus on more mundane aspects of human life for common people. Charles Taylor called this the affirmation of ordinary life. It's noteworthy that the visible houses in the painting appear to be around the church, perhaps centering reverence for God in the private lives of the people, again making sense to give the 16th century religious turmoil. Let's go to the comments here, just really quickly. Sorry, I'm like, it's okay. We're getting cooked now. Second to the last point, the larger building on the left side of the town, at first glance, it appears to be the second church with different architecture. However, upon further examination, I believe this is a castle. Of course, the interpretation of this building depends on this. Yeah, that's probably a castle. That is a castle. So you can see like the little bits of grayish white that he's using just to give a little demarcation of the different foliage of the trees to separate them. Of course, this becomes another technique in landscape painting, is to use darks to separate trees and foliage. So is this a second church with different architecture? This could be further reflections of Bruegel's life in a period of religious turmoil. On the other hand, if we assume this is a castle, Bruegel appears to be de-emphasizing his noble patrons, afterthought versus labor plus town plus church. So that's pretty based. Finally, we have reached the horizon shrouded in fog. The foggy horizon presents a boundary by which the lives of the laborers are confined within. So again, it's like the firmament almost. Labor is literally grounded. Their world is constrained like the savage state in Cole's Course of Empires I've discussed before. No, but again, I think Apex is just making too much of this because, like, again, these are just common principles of aerial perspective, so... you could see that as you go further on, it just fades to a nice bluish mauve color. So, and like you have a peak of a castle here, you have a few ships in the harbor, but you know, it pretty much fades off into oblivion. The expansion of the foggy horizon grounds the totality of the common people, but acknowledges a world beyond the town and field. Considering the painting may have been made for a merchant, we have to question, might this horizon be a frontier, but for who, merchants or labor? When we analyze artwork, we must look at the social context the artist existed in. Of course, you know, closed reading would say no. Trying to separate the artist's intentions from the context that shaped them is a dubious adventure. One cannot fully grasp the intention behind the artwork. The message embedded in the brush strokes. Was Bruegel a sympathetic onlooker, a humanist whose distance from his subject reflects a cultural Christian stoicism? Or did he observe the peasants with disdain, looking down on them, placing the seat of human irrationality in the lower classes? What do you think? It could be true, but again, I think that it's very interesting how even a smaller aspect of the landscape can become a metaphor for something much greater. A lot of people have lambasted, or rather like critiqued the landscape very, you know, sardonically, saying that, well, you know, one landscape is as good as another. How can you have ideational content? How can you have a narrative built into the landscape? A lot of landscape painting, especially after the Northern Renaissance, was imbued with a narrative quality just by the nature of the position of the elements, just by the sort of emotive quality of the storms and the various, aerial perspective and so forth. So, of course, you know, the tonalists are probably the best example in the 19th century. So, yeah, that's a great thread by Apex. Appreciate it. Now we're going to move on. I have to just find it, but let's go to the chat here. Our Let's Plays art! No, they're not art. I'm sorry. I can't, I can't. No, what am I doing? Remove. Fuck that. I'm sorry to say, but Let's Plays are not art. Bruegel has many studies of ripples. Yeah, I think I've heard of that too. Many have basted the lamb. All right, now I just have to go into my bookmarks to find this excellent thread. Where is it? Oh, by the way, here we go. Quick, look at the, now this one is by that, George Apadop, what is his name? This is not a serious one, but G Prime, I love how he's critiquing what the media cartoonists think of, the convoys. So here's like a waypoint from the other thread I wanted to do. Here's another ridiculous kind of like Far Side cartoon, like ripping off Far Side. The Hazmat the cargo with the trucks. Pfft. Oh my god. Look at this. Disinformation and extremism. Wow. Amazing. Yes. Giga Chad. Yes. Forgot to, here's the best one though. The best one I've ever seen by that piece of shit Adler in the fucking Washington Compost. Fascism. Giga Chad. Yes. Forgot to insert the Giga Chad image. There you go. So this is my good friend Sereno Pilled, but I'm trying to find this thread. It's buried in my... here is Fenn's thread, which I will go look up to. Let me see. Where is it? Oh my god. I have to clear out all my bookmarks soon. I'm getting close. Man, I like this image. Look at that. Holy crap. Alex Poulos, yes. Alex Poulos, where is it? My God. Yeah, here it is. JJ the Jackoff Plane. This one. I don't think I could play that for copyright content, but this thread is amazing. I wanted to hold off from reading it in its entirety just for this stream. So again, this, but unironically, we used to be a country, a proper country. So this was when I believe The Matrix was released. So you have a bunch of like, just, you know, again, this, but unironically. So again, I guess people were trying to spoof the meme that some like trad posted, where it's like, oh, we used to be a proper country, meaning, you know, you're nostalgic, it's, you know, bad, like, there's no such thing as, you know, returning, right? I'm going to return. So, JJ just rips this thread apart. Let's go to the comments here. Again, this, but unironically, nothing pains me more than seeing footage of everyday people in everyday situations from as recent as 10 to 15 years ago and realizing just how uninhibited and real everyone looks and acts before perverse social media destroyed it all. It's the old post-Jungian idea of two versions of ourselves as we experience the world and others, and ourselves as others actually perceive us. For the 99 years of human existence, our own perception of self has been dominated by our interactions with the world, rather than the interactions with ourselves. But for the past decade or so, we've been digitally inundated with reminders of how others actually see us. A flick of the lock screen gives us a years-long public-facing visual record of how we've appeared to the outside world. It's profoundly unnatural. It's been a disaster. For some, it's entertaining. You remember a girl from college, the cute blonde from sophomore biolab, the one with the Roman nose and the great ass. You wish you made a move back then. You look up her grainy bikini photos from studies abroad in 2009. You fiercely jack off to them. This is what Zuckerberg wants it to be. This is social media in its purest form. You convince that cute girl you admire from afar, but are too shy to talk to that she should upload her George W. Bush era bikini photos to the internet so you can jack off to them. But it goes out of hand. And what was intended as idle entertainment for socially awkward autists to see if the girl from their intro to C++ classes had a boyfriend or not before they asked to be in her project partner has metastasized into psychological prisons for normies. Woo! Maximum security insanity prison, as Francis C. Deck would say. Everyday people were always more conscious of themselves from the get-go. That's why they wore Abercrombie and played sports and went to parties and watched football instead of hanging out with the math club or wearing Star Trek shirts or talking to other autists on Usenet. But social media locked them into the horrific self-reinforcing cycle. They see a permanent record of their peers online. They put the best versions of themselves in their online permanent records. Their friends see this and try to one-up them with their best versions of themselves. etc. ad infinitum. A certain man called it over-socialization. Uncle Ted K. He was talking about the 60s, though. I can only imagine what he'd have to say about when we are today. Do they give Uncle Ted TV there? I know they don't let him access the internet, but not that he would want to. The college campuses of the Nixon years might as well be ancient Samaria compared to the social menagerie of the past 2 decades. Now everyone's overdosing on others' perceptions of them. This is self-participatory panopticism. This has led to an unprecedented convergence of human behavior. Everyone uses the same mannerisms. Everyone dresses with the same attention to detail. Everyone talks about the same things, the same cues. Oh my God. This is amazing. This is one of the best threads I've ever read in my life. Go and follow Jackoff Plane 3, JJ the Jackoff Plane. Go and follow him. Few things that we do now aren't filtered through the ever-oppressing consensus of mutual hyper-perception, even though we believe that they're going against the grain, unwittingly conform to an increasingly optimized set of behaviors in order to maximize external engagement. Now, everyone is Brittany Murphy and clueless. The proverbial new girl trying desperately to fit in with ever-changing whims of the cool girl clique. Only instead of Alicia Silverstone, it's a planet-spanning silicon behemoth with billions of eyes looking in on a daily basis. 1,000 eyes. That's a great death song, by the way. And that's just the Gen Xers and Millennials. The Millennials, as I would say. Gen Z has its incomprehensibly worse. While older folks at least had the chance to form a truly self-directed idea of themselves before social media shattered and replaced it with a crowdsourced facsimile, Gen Z has known nothing but the machine. Or as Dill Gribble would call it, the beast. You see this in how they interact with the world, how they interact with each other. They never known anything but seeing themselves as others see them, and every single behavior they engage in is filtered through their perception of how others might later perceive them. Yeah, every stream has a death reference. Well, it's true because Chuck Schuldiner was a warrior poet of our day. R.I.P. He was truly one of the last true poets in metal. There's a reason why all of the Silicon Valley bigwigs chose to raise their own children in Waldorf style as far from any electronics as possible. Oh God, I'm going to blow out my voice. Knock on wood. This modern social media corrupted childhood is a behavioral prison with all elements of natural behavior or spontaneity now subsumed by fears of how others might later see it. It's the age-old high school gossip machine, long the nemesis of youthful exuberance, but now it's been pumped on the VGers steroids, and it's scanned and digitalized every aspect of young people's lives, replacing them with a cold, sterile facsimile of what it might be to be young. You no longer live youth, you rather live a simulation of what youth is. You live a Euphoria TV show of what youth is. Oh boy. And the kids who have been destroyed by this have been retreated from nearly every single aspect of adolescence as it's been experienced for the past 50 years. They aren't starting bands. They aren't tuning cars. They aren't even dating or having sex. The data is terrifying. And all because Mark Zuckerberg wanted to creep on his old classmates. I'm not sure how we fix this, but I'm pretty sure that banning captivating touchscreens and with them the truly democratized internet would be a good place to start. It's very likely, though, that this is a spiritual speciation event, and most people exposed to the mind poison will never recover in any meaningful way. Creating marriage and birth rates seem to back this up. Creating marriage and birth rates, and in the long run, it may be a self-correcting problem. But in the intern, we face something almost unprecedented, a world in which the foreseeth thinkers, the ones who will be able to reverse the damage and build a better future aren't the young, but those old enough to have been relatively uncorrupted by the digital life. It's an inverse 1960s. Don't trust anyone under 30. Oh my God. Oh my God. I have nothing to say. That is like truly one of the best threads I've ever read. Oh my God. Gio reads a good thread with the same passion he reads the gospel. Yes, this is very true. Look at that. I'm getting cheap YouTube content ideas right now. Amen, brother. Amen. I don't know what the time, but it was good. Oh my God. That was amazing. Let's see here. Fen D. Where is it? Oh. What am I doing? Fen D. I'm looking for Fen's thread. The final thread before we get to some news. So Fen de Villers. This is his amazing thread. It's the shortest thread out of all of them. But this is one of his recent sculptures. Oh, I don't. It has copyrighted music, so I can't. Woo! Oh, it's from the Gattaca OST. Okay. So Kitsch makes it one fucking wretch. Honestly, you bring such a poor example. Absolutely horrid. The angels are just hideous. My God, I can't stop laughing. And this is exactly what I said should be avoided. Spiritually devoid, saccharine nonsense. Oh, is he going after Giovanni Gasparo? I mean, Giovanni Gasparo, he's pretty based. I mean, he's got a lot of based, takes on certain people. But no, I hate this type of stuff. It's terrible. To me, it's just like a LARPing of the Renaissance. That's all it is. Like, it's like, this looks like it belongs in one of those, like, New Age shops. Like, in Canada, we have Green Earth. It belongs in Green Earth. Oh, my God. Yeah, this one, it's the LARP fest. It's the total LARP fest. I hate this. Ciro Diavila, yeah, it's, so what is he, what is this thread crying about? This guy tries... What is this? Like, what? This guy tries to defend his interests by attacking people who demand traditional art styles. Yeah, traditional Western art! Woo! Yeah, right, yeah. He implies that those traditional styles cannot be reproduced again. That's not the point! Yes, you can reproduce it, but what is the point? It's literally just... It's just a reified image. It is just a LARP pastiche of the past. It does not speak to our own time period. It speaks to us historically where we come from. But in terms of art that services the needs of people in the present, it doesn't speak to us. I hate to say it. Cannot be reproduced again, but no point does he mention the current traditional artists who do reproduce traditional styles. A lot of them are literally restoration artists. Whatever. So this is the thread I wanted to cover, but of course this Bugman, a different form of Bugman, is attacking is attacking Fen. So you know the Tumblr, like the post-Tumblr, like twee aesthetic, like, you know, dark academia. It's basically like, this is like dark academia for trads. It's just a total LARP fest. The current system is a pro-traditional art that perpetuates the artistic historical legacy of Europe. Blah, blah, blah. He affirms that the problem cannot be changed, the subversion of any movement that seeks to change the current art scene. He says that a collection of artists will not appear to reproduce such exquisite art again, but that happens precisely because of the problem. So yeah, it's hideous kitsch. He's absolutely dishonest. He underestimates and ridicules the possible reproduction of refined classic art, saying, oh my god, saying that it can only be barely imitated when he himself imitates the recent past by using another style, the abstract futuristic sculpture of 100 years ago. Oh wow, epic Reddit bacon own right there. No, because Fen doesn't do anything new. No, I'm sorry. Fen doesn't do anything new with sculpture, right? He just LARPs the past, right? But only a more recent past. Like, wow, that's... I don't know about that. Look, and I'm not just saying this because he's my friend. I'm saying this because it's true. It's like, that's such a dishonest take. Looking back to go forward, but not too far back, the only valid past is one that he approves of. The ship is so... No, you can take the ideational content. You can take the same archetypal motifs and the same message of those past styles, but you're never going to reproduce the same life world that those forms of art from the Renaissance came from. This whole, like, you know, for people that criticize him, and I have a lot of criticism of him too, but Paul Talk was 100% right. Paul Rhodes, he was 100% right when he said that neoclassicism that they preached to you in the Art Renewal Center by people like Graydon Parrish, that is just as much contemporary art as anything else, because it is reified and it is taken out of the life world and context and what the sort of worlding of those styles that Heidegger would say, it's taken out of it and it's placing it in a contemporary context. It is just as much postmodern eclecticism as what Kara Walker is doing with her Sugar Baby statue. It's the same. But the trads don't want to hear that, do they? I don't mean real trads, I mean trad LARPers, the people that, you know, look at the pretty painting. But using another style, the abstract futuristic sculpture in years, blah, 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 flight in your own way, this way cannot be distant past. Another good RuneScape visual is another good friend of mine. This isn't anything traditional about any of these examples. It's postmodern hyper-reality with a pseudo-classical veneer. Yes! You can go on ArtStation right now and find thousands upon thousands of video game concepts that looks just like this. Oh my god, epic own. Oh my god. Stop it. He's already dead. I'm going to post that. Stop it. He's already dead. Let me post that. Stop it. Where is it? Come on. I love the Simpsons. I love the early Simpsons gifs. I love that. Stop it, he's already dead. Oh, let's go to the comments here. To every age, it's art. To art, it's freedom. When Buckethead began to hate, Geo says, Geo Soy voice is so good. Yes, I know it. It's very good. Anything more advanced than cave paintings equals cultural Marxoidism. Well, you know, this is being like a soy, just a different type of soy. This is being like a trad soy, pretty much. You know this is a restoration work, right? Like, you know that's what it is. It's just so kitsch. It's hideous. Oh, someone should like take my videos and do a compilation on BTR in here of me doing the soy boy voice. They should do that. I wonder if one of my fans has enough autism to do that. Here we go. So this is my, can you see that? This is not traditional. This isn't like traditional wood engraving. It doesn't look like Thomas B. Wick. I can't believe this. Albert Durr wouldn't do it. I mean, here, Thomas B. Wick and Albert Durr are two of my favorite artists / printmakers of all time. But I'm not going to stand here and be like, you know what? I have to do a perfect reproduction of what Albert Durr did, or what Gustav Dorr did, because that's not me. A, because I don't have that skill level. B, because even if I did, it's like, it's not genuine. You see this here? This speaks, not to say my artwork is great. I still have to like do, some refinements, but something like this, not necessarily me, like, cause this is not, I mean, yeah, it's not that great. Obviously, it's not like a lot of other people that are still doing wood engraving, but this kind of tries to speak to what we're going through right now, rather than if I were to do a medieval Renaissance scene of someone in a horse and buggy. You know what I mean? So, oh, by the way, you can't see it because I have to rub it with some marble dust in order to see it, some talcum powder. But the back of it is my Killdozer print that I made. So if you want that, you can DM me, but I'm going to set up my shop really soon. Hopefully I can get some mammons out of it. Oh, let's go to the chat before I do this final thread. You underate yourself. Oh, thank you, Philip. I'll leave your comment on this. Well, Fen, here we go. This is Fen's final thread. Well, I shouldn't say save the best for last, because all three threads that I covered are amazing. So, Aphex Twin is trad in the sense that he's good, yes. So this is only 12 tweets long. I enjoy your print works. Thank you, Fen. I can't wait to print this, but I do have to, if you can see, I have to refine the tree line. I just, cause like, what I like to do is I like to take a Sharpie or something, or I would even like just roll it with a very thin layer of ink, just to like see the mistakes and everything. So, so this is Fen. I have an idea. Maybe I could draw Fen in charcoal, because this is a great photo of him. So we'll see what happens. Fen, now that you're here, I wanted to run this idea by you. You know what I could do is, next time you have a gallery show, I can make very like stark contrasted, what they call black printing, monoprints of your sculptures that can accompany your work. I wonder if you would enjoy that. I might do some of them soon, because I'm getting more into monoprinting. So I wonder if, hey Gio, I just dropped some new art. And don't you, did you at me? So, yeah, I have everything ready, Philip. I just have to, I have to scan them. Oh my, like, okay, Salmon Fish, I have to see this. Oh my God, I don't know if I could show, let me see if I could show this. I'm gonna have to go to your account on my phone. Let me just really quickly go to to Salmon Fish's account. And in fact, I think, I'm going to save the news article because I'm having a great time talking about art, and I don't want to spoil this by talking about nonsense. How do I spell salmon fish? My God, what am I doing? King Salmon Fish. Let's look at his recent. He's a great digital artist, King Salmon Fish. I'm gonna show this. We'll be interested to see what you bring out. Fen, I could do like a bunch of them because mono printing is pretty quick. So we'll see what. Yeah, I could show this on YouTube. So let's read the thread. Finally, let's read it. So this is Fen's thread. By the way, Fen is also recently featured in Men's World Magazine, Volume 5, I believe. And also, if you go to Antelope Hill Publishing, go to the published book print version of the compilation of the first year of Men's World Magazine. I have a online digital gallery of 11 paintings of bodybuilders, along with an essay about vitalist bodybuilding and the work of art. So it's also Fen's artwork is featured in there as well. I will show this. I will shill it. I haven't shilled it enough. So number 1 to 12, we are living in a spiritual and aesthetic dark age. It is trench warfare on the cultural front. The culture Kampf. I am trying to find something of who we are. Today we are not 1700s man, not 1800s man. I care about where we are today and where we are going. I was fortunate to have a recent post of mine really get some traction. It provided a terrific litmus test. The positive comments and curiosity was just terrific to behold. Thank you for the support. And so this is, whoa, look at that. Holy crap. Amazing. You know how much work that takes, ladies and gentlemen? I know he's using power tools, but I mean, still, it's like having done construction myself, not to compare, but it's like to have that level of detail while you're doing it too. I've actually, used an impact hammer. It's not fun. Let me tell you, it is not fun to you. Oh man, it's murder on your hands. Now, imagine doing that for hours on end. And I know, like, once you get to the smaller detail with the Dremel, it's probably easier, but, like, to use an impact hammer for hours on end, it's not very fun, let me tell you. I was fortunate to have recent posts of mine get traction. Oh my god, what is this? Fen, what is this? Oh god. No. Are you returning to tradition, son? Oh god. Oh, no. There's another America First Catboy. Oh, God, the anime eyes. Oh, look at that with a siege mask. Oh, this is terrifying. Can you imagine if you were a father and you walked in on your son looking like Catboy Cammy with a siege mask? Would you just slap the taste out of their mouth, right? Oh, God. Not that I advocate. I am totally with Stefan Molyneux. I do not advocate physical discipline. But, that's a huge exception to the rule. What I found entertaining was the low energy replies coming from a few trad LARPers return accounts. Fen, I wonder what trad Western art Brendan heard. I wonder what he thought about your artwork. Which were actually quite a pleasure to sift through. I'm glad that I was on their radar. Perhaps, please, I've experienced what it's like to be on their radar. It's not good. Perhaps I may even convince them that to wake up out of the LARP dream. See, because you know what LARPing gets you? It gets you that. That is what LARPing gets you. That is what a crushing lack of sincerity gets you. You are a siege posting catboy in a school anime dress. My God. Guys, we are going back. The society we have is in ruins. We have to start again. We need to cradle the embers of strong art movements and formulate something that resonates today and not look back, but to look forward, but not too far back. Many of the return guys want to see this, but honestly, they provide absolutely zero vision to how this style would be expressed today. Does our society nurture such technical ability? No, of course it does not. The best I can know is a copy. But dream in this style? Rarely. Look at that. Look at that's Baroque, probably. That's the famous one of is it Artemis that Zeus was trying to get? You know, I think it's Artemis. This is of course, the famous Saint Teresa one that's been written about. You know, Gregor Bataille has a whole book on this painting, eroticism, and of course, this is the famous Medusa sculpture. At best, what you get is this, in which, I guess, blah. At best, what you get is that which is just laughable kitsch and sweet, utterly devoid of glory, life, and energy. No, ladies and gentlemen, this ain't it. This is nothing but a pastiche, a simulacra. Look at that. Look at that. Belongs to the guy. My mother has one similar to this. She has tons of these statues. Oh my God. Oh God. Woo. We're going to return. A lot of returning is just a fetish. You know that, right? You know a lot of sexual fetishism is, oh, look at this healthcare workers planning rally counter to we. Yeah, go ahead, please. I beg you, I dare you. Go up to the tractor people and do a counter protest, please. See what happens. There's a huge difference between dreaming in a certain style and then simply reproducing what greats did before. My conclusion is many are caught in a ghost dance. You notice that this is a major problem in our society and you just want to go back. Ghost dance, North American religious cult of the second half of the 19th century, based on performance of ritual dance, which it was believed would drive away white people and restore the traditional lands of the way of life. Me and my good friend Matthew the Stout was talking about this with Fen, about the ghost dance. No, a lot of these return to tradition. Here's the thing: I don't want to say it's just sexual fetishism, but with like the younger LARPier like return accounts, a lot of it kind of is like just a sexual thing because they want to experience like a pornified worldview, but having a bit of taste with it and having a bit of like repressing their Oedipal desires for a more distant past. So in a way, it gives them a sort of like moral clearinghouse. It gives them sort of like a moral car wash or laundromat sort of thing. It launders a sort of higher aesthetic appreciation by looking at, basically pornographic. Like they take the beauty of the Renaissance nude and they pornify it, more or less. Because it's not icky and dirty and utilitarian as, real porn. So, I have sobering news. The ship has sailed. Hold your hand to the flame and accept that what we are, no genius collective of amazing artists and architects are going to come out of the woodwork and start making high Renaissance art. Enjoy what was great, enjoy what the greats made and move forward. There you go. Men among the ruins. What can we look to then? The primal essence and residue of greatness, a blissful aftertaste of past glory. Where was it last seen? 1870 to 1940 plus, still embodied that vital flame. If we can reinvigorate that spirit of dynamism and vitality, is a new way we can show itself. So this is classic, Vorticism, or Italian Futurism. That is Art Deco. There we go. Styles and refinement will organically grow as our current civilization begins to find its senses again. This will take time. It is not happening one day to the next. The periods in ancient Greece took hundreds of years to try and change and develop. We won't just be returning. So here we go. Hellenistic, archaic, period, painting, sculpture, blah, blah, blah. Embrace what we stand today. Fight in your own way to bring something of vitality and strength to the mix. The primal energy is eternal. We will forever be here. We would just need a way to channel it back into our visual culture. So again, you have in some ways this almost comes off as sort of like a church mosaic or like certain forms of iconography, but it very much is within a modern context. It very much is within, like, Cubism, Italian Futurism. And lastly, if you are an artist, start dreaming another way. Ask the question, who are we now? Where are we going? There we go. A powerful message by Fen. Oh, thank God, there is no copyright music on here. Powerful, powerful stuff. 100% endorsed. Let's see what you guys think. Return to Home Depot! Return to Home Depot! Thank you, Modern Hermeticist, for coming by. Hades and Personifi. Yeah, Hades and Personifi, yeah. Thank you. I bought Eroticism 11 years ago, still haven't read it. Please go and read it. I did an essay on it, which I'm going to republish sometime. Because the publication that I wrote it for is long since dead. AF Catboys are logically extent of irony. Fen has great culture, art diagnosis. I just don't understand why 21st century brutalism is a prescription. Well, this isn't exactly brutalism. This is more than, brutalism. It's got too much bells and whistles to be brutalism. What would be your take on still living traditions like Orthodox Christian art? Could that not be used as the jumping off point for new art? I don't think... Okay, here's the thing. I talked about this with Jonathan Pajou on Break the Rules. But I don't see it that way. In some ways, you have El Greco, you have Georges Rouault, and some other modern artists of the day who were influenced in the 19th and 20th century by Orthodox iconography. But I don't think that... I don't want to denigrate Orthodoxy in the sense that I don't view iconography as a quote-unquote art style. There's this great book you can look up. It's called Icons in Time, Persons in Eternity. That is really fascinating and looks at the icon through... it looks at iconography through the lens of contemporary, or rather modern art in general, especially modern painting like the New York School. Because a lot of them were influenced by Orthodoxy in a lot of weird ways. For example, you have a lot of painters. The one guy that would paint the towers in New York, not the towers, the Golden Gate Bridge. He viewed that as almost like an archetypal cathedral to the modern world, right? So, Shell Shocked Art Deco. So let me type it in, then I will answer more questions. Look up the book Icons in Time, Persons in Eternity. There you go. Just bought a copy of Eros and Irony, a preclude philosophical anarchism. Have never heard of it, but just swooped it. I have to look that up, Eros and Irony. I wonder. Thoughts on Joseph Campbell? Ralph Dude, I will get to your question. Thoughts on Joseph Campbell? Let's go... Well, before we do this, let's go up to Fen's artwork here. I believe that's probably the marquee. Here we go. It was powerful visage. Thoughts on Joseph Campbell? I love Joseph Campbell. I have almost every work by Joseph Campbell. I think that he was a more serious religious ethnographer than Jung. If you want to get comparative religion right, then you just have to read Joseph Campbell. There's no way around it, even though a lot of academics don't see it that way, but whatever. A lot of academics would rather just read like some kind of like post-structuralism, like Homi K. Bhabha or something like that. But no, Joseph Campbell's a go-to. I even have like his more expensive stuff, like Analysis of World Myth. I actually have the book in my art books because I use a lot of the symbols in the artwork that it's like got a lot of pictures and stuff. But no, I have... Hero with a Thousand Faces, of course, a must-read, right? His other works on Japan are quite good as well. Just bought a copy. So, Gio, what do you feel about... And I don't know, like Orthodox iconography in some weird ways could probably be a jumping off point, but I don't really consider a quote-unquote aesthetic or a work of art. It's something entirely different. Not that it isn't works of art. They are works of art, but it's just that they have a more sacred meaning than just being a quote-unquote work of art, right? So there's always that sort of like ambiguity between what is a sacred object and what is a work of art. Because even like, even though she likes to deny it, like you have like some, people like, Marina Abramovic, who would say that what she's doing is ritualism. It's ritualism and art. It's the work of ritual being brought into the work of art. So, here's Ralph Dude's question. Geo, what do you feel about taking aesthetics in a more decadent, feminine, and decorative and Dionysian direction? Well, I don't know. Yeah, it depends. There's a time and place for that. Just I think that you have to balance that out with some form of masculine vitality, because that becomes like it becomes like the Rococo. It becomes too dainty, too sort of like refined, too sappy and sensual, and of course it can verge into pornography as well. So, I mean. I certainly like drawing women and painting them, but that's true. I thought it was important to point out that actually still are living traditions. Not everything is dead. That's very true. Agony of Eros is a phenomenal book. Thank you for recommendations. Oh, the Agony. Yeah. Yeah. You went and bought it, Judge? That's, I would binge all of, Byung-Chul Han's, works. So, there we go. So finally, I wanted to go to King Salmonfish's. If you look at what he submitted to the Passage Prize, it's incredible. There we go. Oh boy! Oh, look at this. This is Nicole Arbor. This one's for the crazies. Oh my god. Oh. Maybe you're an asshole. Oh, I love this. He truly is like taking the spirit of like Randy Prozac and Nobody TM, and he's like, making it into something else. Is Nicole Arbor still around? I thought she got viciously canceled by everybody. But let me look at some. Does he have some of his other artworks? Amazing. Let me just retweet. Salmonfish, can you remix this too? Can you like take the original but like do it like into more of a Nobody TM style? Oh, that's another thing I want to announce. Speaking of Nobody TM, these blast points too accurate for snow people. Spiritual pressure. See, this is what the classic sort of Nobody TM stuff that you would find back in the day. If Eternity, wow. I really like this one. I like this one. Like it's got such a refined schizo energy. I love it. Apparently someone is archiving the original Nobody TM site. So here we go. Go to nobodytm.org. Here's the menu. It also changes. I like how when you press the link over here, like you have the little Easter egg, it changes the screen from some of the older versions of the website. So here we go. This is how I remember Nobody TM. This is and apparently it's all on YouTube. Let's see if this one's daydreaming. I think I remember daydreaming. Yeah, this is a good one. Nobody TM is the new cover message, is a sudden silence, is eternal passage, cosmic presence. We must reverse our fate. We must reach the nothing. We must submit to the inevitable. Spiritual contracts, accept and expect, pray and obey. So he managed to find the original about section. So if you guys want me to read this, press 1 in the chat. If you don't, press 2. Waifu posting is unironically a living art tradition. Oh my god, waifu No. Mask of God set, trying to read Robert E. Howard. All remix to remix. Quite based. So yeah, let me just read it. Let me read it. It's not that long. I will attempt to refrain from specificity as I am aware of complex questions pertaining to the rulings entities of the world are difficult to answer directly. Generally speaking, do you believe that there is so this is this was one of the original interview questions that Nobody TM posted on the original website before it got remixed into something else where my essay is in. Pertaining to the ruling entities of the world are difficult to answer directly. Generally speaking, do you believe that there is a hand behind the degeneration we are currently witnessing, or is it something that is occurring organically? Of course, I don't expect the answer to be black and white. Empires rise and fall, cultures ebb and flow. However, there is a great deal of evidence that seems to suggest the workings of higher manipulative forces, that some greater agenda is in play. As someone with a particular interest in history, I have studied such occurrences and would not be shocked. It would not shock me to find the post-industrial revolution world is even more malleable than previous ones, even with the lack of public education spanning from the beginning of recorded history taken into account. Obviously, the question would follow logically from this would seek to identify what the purpose of such a subversive agenda is. What did they have hoped to accomplish and why? So this is Nobody TM's answer. It would be rather fragmented, pyramids within pyramids. Many within the infrastructure would see themselves and their affiliates as the higher capstone. It is natural that a hand/colluding groups would have an agenda when shaping demographics. A cultural decline makes for more susceptible prey. That being said, I would gather that the reach of fiat currency can only extend so far, especially when it is freely generated past a certain threshold. It's somewhat illusory. 2.3 trillion. Well, this was written back in 2012, 2013, so, 2.3 trillion, so I suppose besides the integral economic matrix, money supplies the trough. And for the New World Order, we are already very entrenched in this scenario. I don't think education is a factor for freeing the intellect lately. The word merely infers an institutionalized obstacle course of trivia. A mind should be free to gravitate to its own devices and inclinations. There is a lot to say on the subject. What do they do? What do they hope to accomplish and why? But my answers would be regurgitations of the obvious. It really is apparent given the trajectory of the planet. It is in poor taste to type these things out. My content is a documentation of reasons as to say I was here. So Nobody TM's artwork is bearing witness to the machinations of the world. Gio, you don't want to hear this, but the empty decadent formalism of K-pop is the aesthetic direction we must go to be truer in these times. Oh my god, no. Take it up with Lev. He would agree with you. He agrees with you. Yeah. Oh my god, please not K-pop. Please not K-pop. Anyways, K-pop is the sign of the decadence of this world. Second question, do you cycle small talk and worldview warfare, or was some of your older videos into other works? Or have you removed them entirely? It seems to recall you speaking a lot more, but it was harder to come by when I rewatched your episodes /disc/firmament series on your website, i.e. my favorite speech of yours is episode 14, is not only lacking audio but missing a sizable segment. Again, I respect your right to publish whatever you please, so don't feel like I'm demanding anything from you. What you mentioned has been recycled mostly into episodes. Some of the better content was disseminated into the discs. Everything I have on my website is what I make available. Thank you for the reply. The suspect such things simply from viewing your works. What I wasn't sure of was interpreting it along the lines of what you had in mind, what you made of them. It is difficult to discern the placement of what is being satirized or mocked and what isn't, though I suppose there's part of the beauty. Only on that note, you more recent episodes seem to contain more abstract spiritual elements, particularly into the intro video on your website, which has some Buddhist transcendentalist themes in them, and sometimes Christian theology is commonality in more of your works, though I am unsure of the intention. Perhaps it is representing tradition. Is there any sincerity to these sentiments, or am I overanalyzing your absurd style? There is a sincerity when I create attempts to cater to the spectrum of emotion. It is just more honest than that way. Otherwise, it would come off as baiting. The Christian subtext is a tricky one. I've used it with varying reasons. I would not identify with the congregation, the church corporations, but the philosophy of Christ is of great interest to me. The religion narrative has been dissolved into a limp defeatism that serves this relativistic, politically correct morality, and ergo tradition is now a rotting corpse, at least in Western sense. Any and all religions possess anthropomorphic concepts, and all use whatever deity as a vehicle of it, as it relates. Everything is abstraction. All communication is the transmission of thoughts based on modulations of perception. We just throw our human syntax on what exists. Our spoken, written communication is terribly limited. A great subversion lives beneath all of that. God's dichotomous nature is distributed into many forms and rules, and so the theological pattern seeps into the present, along with their representative institutions. We have our contemporary mythological pantheon, which was initially war propaganda, available via the temple cinema, which is considered religious experience. Collect their peripheral media as a sign of an undying devotion, build a shrine or whatever. Then Nobody TM says, I suppose I utilize the ambiguity of spiritualism that religious inheritance possesses, often to an absurdist extent. The absurdist style is the most articulate. When approaching the world's situation, because absurd is the nature of reality, I frame reality with alternative lenses, something I like to think is most truthful than the normative vantage. You and everyone else will understand what is understood, considering my works. Whether I deny or confirm intention is irrelevant. Like anything else, it becomes more intricate with further inspection. I'm pleased to see my initial observation was not all short-sighted as previous. I'm woefully ignorant in regards to spirituality and its related systems. I appreciate the meticulous clarification. While I do not seek to have the underlying intimidations explicitly dedicated to me, it is wonderfully insightful to be able to glean portions of the animus behind your work. In this regard, your photo, art, and music, at least in my eyes, plays just as significant a role in illuminating your message as your video. Your albums transcend mere creating a rhythm that is pleasing to the ear. The music is haunting yet uplifting, a lonely journey of pale sonder leading to a passionate reunion with the soul. Does the inspiration for these songs come from the same spirit of your videos, or is it a different source, perhaps objective in your music? My music is very much in relation to my video content. It's all rooted to my tastes and intentions, which is really a conjecture of my experiences. The process of creating music gives me a better sense in which I ingest audibly. Turning the brain via the ear, I can hear things better now, listening to the same way I treat audio. They both have a rhythm. Music is the space between the notes. The same could be said of the visual. They are both forms of movement. It is what an orchestra is led by a composer. I am very hesitant to say I am anything but an editor. My remaining curiosity is perhaps a bit more shallow. Do you ever intend to make another feature-length movie akin to Scythe or a series similar to Firmament? And if you're willing to answer, what VPN proxy do you recommend? Not sure. My feature-length movie is somewhat representative of the Nobody TM franchise. It will slowly erode, evolve, and morph over time. I might make another series of some sort, think of another format, though. I'll abstain from advertising but online anonymity, although hopelessly transparent. puts a certain level is best kept through whatever disinformation that can be afforded. Best to seed it early as possible, and you can be anyone online with an ego and submission. Lastly, do you foresee any significant changes to your website? I remember variations in ODTM. Facebook, Twitter, PayPal integration. In all honesty, I'm not sure. I don't think I would push it that far. The identity of my website, it remains and it welcomes whomever opens its door. A portal to what is practically hidden from the common routine. A guiding hand for the wonders and dispossessed human oddities. A grieving gesture attempts to peer into the ruling mystery. My website is an altar to espouse any perception to others and myself through the either self. Through the Ethernet. I, painting from myself to myself, know what I do and unmoved by man's blame or their praise either. Somebody remarks, Morello's outline that there is wrongly traced. His hue mistaken, what of that, or else? Rightly traced and well ordered, what of that? Speak as they please, what does the mountain care? But a man's reach should exceed his grasp. What heavens for, all in silver gray, placid and perfect was my art and worse. So this is an archive of the Nobody TM website. This is truly brilliant. I'm glad this is happening. Nobody TM pretty much started a lion's share of trends you see on the chans, in my opinion. So let me go to another version of it. Oh, here's another version of it. So here you have the not all of the. So this is all of the images that used to be on the website. This person is still compiling them, but you know. It's a work in progress. You have the episodes. A lot of them are missing, but some of them you could probably find. Yeah, season 2 is kind of like missing. But I believe if you look on YouTube, you can find them. Like Thunderbirds has like a good archive. Where's the music albums? Yeah, a lot of the albums, most of the albums are missing. Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, if people have archives, I know people have like downloaded a lot of the archives. So this is a chat room. The Zuckerberg photo. Is it on actually? I wonder. So yeah, this was I believe an older version of the website. So you still have the original links to Randy Prozac. Is Sentimental Corpse still up? Oh my god, it's still up. Holy crap. I have to go explore. I haven't watched all of Randy Prozac, but like, you know, here were all the original links. So, I don't care if you want to be Garbage Man, but be the best damn Garbage Man you could be. Dolphin Star Program, Google Plus Dialogue. Yeah, so please go to nobodytm.org. It's the original archive of the website. So... For some reason, he's talking about word cells and shape rotations. Will you read out VitLink's latest thread? Never mind it, see what it's about, not worth further exploration. What is the whole, like, what is this whole thing with, like, Mark and, what's the guy's name? Mark Anderofferson? I saw his episode with Default Friend, after the orgy. But what is this whole thing about the word cell? Like, I know Rune was talking about it. Like, I don't know, like, the whole, like, tech, like, post-rationalist people, like, I have no, like, I know some of them, like, I'm mutuals with some of them, like Eigen Robot, but, like, I just do not care for that type of stuff. I mean, I was never a less wrong person. It's just, yeah, whatever. So this has been great. How long have we been going? An hour and a half. Hour of Time by Bill Cooper. So my friends, I will probably do a video or another stream reading this article. But this has been great. We've been going for a while now. I read some great threads. I've looked at some great art. So as always, people, next week on Break the Rules, We're having 3 streams. We are finally going to have the debate between Tyler Hamilton and Miguel from that Gnostic Radio YouTube channel. That's going to be on Monday, so uncharacteristic stream on Monday. And I think a Gnostic Informant is his backup, and of course I'm going to be Tyler's backup, but it's going to be a pretty easy day because Tyler has this covered. Fame star Tyler Hamilton. Then we're going to have that Josh, what's his guy's name? He interviewed Michael Flynn, the general. Josh Lakish. Oh God, I forget his name. Then we also have another stream. I don't know. I forget the stream on Thursday, but it's a pretty heavy content week. So this has been great. Please go and support all of the people. Go and subscribe. Follow them on Twitter. The 3 people I've mentioned, JJ, Fen, of course, and Apex. Go and support all of their work. This has been a blast, people. I love you all. Mwah. God bless. Goodbye. Too sweet. Okay, that's how it stops. End broadcast.